The sky above Mars burned like fire as the mighty warship Ares-class Titan entered its orbit. The red planet glowed beneath, silent and empty, but deep inside the silence, something ancient waited. Colonel Mara Jensen stood on the main deck of the warship, staring through the glass window. Her reflection looked pale under the red light. The engines roared behind her, shaking the walls as the ship broke through the thin Martian atmosphere. "Mars, we're home again," she whispered. But even she knew this wasn't home. It was a graveyard of lost missions and forgotten dreams. The Ares was not an ordinary ship. It was humanity's most powerful war machine, built to defend Earth after the Orion Wars, a floating city of steel loaded with energy cannons and plasma engines, controlled by a crew of 500 brave souls. For months, they had been searching for signs of alien movement near Mars. Now, their search had ended, but not how they expected. As the ship lowered near the dusty plains of Utopia Planitia, strange signals began to appear on the radar. Sharp, rhythmic pulses, too regular to be natural, too old to belong to any known technology. Lieutenant Rao, the ship's communications officer, frowned at his console. "Colonel, we're picking up a repeating signal coming from beneath the surface," he said. "It's deep underground, almost 20 kilometers below." Mara turned toward him, her voice calm but firm. "Could it be an old Earth probe?" Rao shook his head. "No, ma'am. The frequency pattern doesn't match anything from Earth. It's alien, and it's ancient." The command deck fell silent. Only the low hum of the engines filled the air. Mara took a breath and walked to the central console. She placed her gloved hand on the glass. The signal was faint, but it pulsed like a heartbeat. Every few seconds, a soft blip echoed through the room. "It felt alive." "Commander Hayes," she said, turning to the ship's engineer, "prepare a ground team. We'll land and investigate." Within minutes, the Ares' landing gear touched the surface of Mars. The red dust rose in clouds, swirling around the giant warship as it settled on the barren plains. The crew moved quickly. Drones flew out, scanning the surroundings, and armored soldiers stepped down the ramp into the dry, silent world. The temperature outside was freezing. The wind carried fine red sand that scratched against their helmets. The crew formed a line, moving toward the source of the strange signal. "Keep your eyes open," Mara ordered. Her voice echoed through the communication channel. "Mars isn't as empty as it looks." After an hour of walking, they reached a wide crater. The scanners went wild. The signal was coming from right beneath them. The ground was smoother here, almost polished, as if something massive had melted the rocks long ago. Lieutenant Rao knelt down and brushed the sand with his glove. "Colonel?" "I think this is metal." Mara bent down beside him. The surface under the sand was dark, almost black, with strange symbols carved into it. They glowed faintly as if reacting to their presence. Before she could speak, the ground trembled. A deep, low rumble spread through the desert. The crew stumbled as the sand began to shift beneath their feet. "Everyone, fall back!" Mara shouted. The crater cracked open like an eye waking from sleep. Dust and light burst into the air as massive metallic plates began to move, sliding apart with a slow, grinding sound. Beneath them, something huge stirred, an ancient door, opening after countless years. The crew stared in shock. The darkness below shimmered with blue light. Inside, they could see towering walls and strange machines covered in dust. The air shimmered with energy. Rao's voice trembled. "Remember, this place is not natural. It's some kind of alien facility." Mara took a deep breath. "We found their tomb," she said quietly, but before she could order a retreat, the ground shook again, stronger this time. One of the drones hovering above flickered, then exploded in a flash of light. A wave of static hit their suits. "Signal interference." Hayes shouted, "Something's waking up down there." Suddenly, the alien symbols on the ground started glowing brighter. Lines of blue light spread outward, forming strange patterns across the sand. The warship Ares, still parked a few kilometers away, detected an energy spike so massive it triggered its automatic defense systems. Inside the ship, Alarms blared. Unknown energy source detected. Rising rapidly. The computer warned. Mara looked down into the dark opening below her feet. Her mechanical growl echoed from the depths, deep and ancient. She felt her heart pound as the light grew brighter, almost blinding. "Colonel," Rao whispered, "I think we just woke something that was never meant to wake again." The light exploded outward in a blue wave that swept across the desert, shaking the warship even miles away. Dust rose into the sky, hiding everything from view. When the smoke cleared, the crater was gone. In its place stood a gigantic metallic structure, half buried, glowing faintly under the pale Martian sun. It looked like a ship, but older, darker, and far more dangerous than anything humans had ever built. The Aris's crew stared at it in silence from the main deck. No one spoke. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. Mara's voice finally broke the stillness. "Transmit this to Earth Command," she said. "Tell them Mars is not dead. Something here is alive, and it's awake, far above in orbit." Satellites caught the same strange signal, spreading through the void of space, the same pulse repeating again and again, echoing beyond Mars and somewhere in the cold darkness between the stars. "Someone, or something," Anna said. The red dust had not yet settled when the crew of Ares-class Titan realized what they had done. The crater that once hid the signal was gone, replaced by a colossal metallic structure glowing faintly beneath the thin Martian sky. The strange blue light pulsed like a heartbeat, slow, deep, alive. Colonel Mara Jensen stood on the command deck, her eyes fixed on the holographic screen. The scanners showed impossible readings. Massive power surges from deep below the surface. "Report," she ordered. Lieutenant Rao's voice shook as he read the data. "Colonel, the energy level is rising again. It's spreading through the crust, connecting to other buried structures across the planet." "Other structures?" Mara frowned. "How many?" Rao swallowed hard. "At least 12, ma'am. Maybe more." A heavy silence filled the room. Mars was waking up piece by piece. On the surface, the ground team struggled to see through the swirling dust. The air shimmered blue as static crackled around them. One of the soldiers, Private Kane, pointed toward the structure. "Ma'am, it's changing." And it was. The dark metallic walls shifted like living skin, rearranging themselves with slow, grinding sounds. Long vertical panels moved aside, revealing deep corridors inside, lit by streams of pale blue light. Symbols carved into the walls pulsed, almost as if they were breathing. Mara activated her helmet comm. "Ground team, do not engage. Stay alert and record everything." She turned to her second-in-command, Commander Hayes. "Prepare a remote drone. I want a full scan inside that structure." Within minutes, a small drone flew toward the glowing opening. Its camera streamed images directly to the Ares bridge. Everyone leaned forward as the drone crossed the threshold. Inside, the corridors were massive, each wall covered in unknown runes. Strange orbs floated in the air, emitting a faint hum. The deeper the drone went, the stronger the signal became. "Colonel," Hayes whispered, "those designs, they look like ship schematics, but older, much older." The drone moved through a long tunnel until it entered a huge circular chamber. In the center stood a gigantic black pillar covered in glowing veins of blue light. Around it floated several dark, oval-shaped capsules, sealed and motionless. Rao adjusted the scanner feed. "I'm detecting life signs." "Faint but present. Life?" Mara repeated. "After all these years?" Before anyone could react, the pillar pulsed. A deep sound rolled through the chamber, a vibration that made the drone's camera flicker. Then one of the capsules cracked open, signal interference increasing. Hayes shouted, "We're losing the feed." The screen flashed static, then went black. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then a deep metallic voice echoed through the ship's speakers, and not from the radio, but from the very air around them. "Intruders detected. Access denied." The bridge lights flickered. Systems rebooted themselves. The Ares's artificial intelligence tried to respond, but the voice overpowered it. "Identify your origin," Mara gritted her teeth. "This is Colonel Mara Jensen of Earth Command. We come in peace." For a second, everything went silent. Then the voice spoke again, deeper and colder. Earth, unauthorized species, access revoked. The ground beneath the warship trembled. A shockwave burst out from the alien structure, knocking soldiers off their feet. The warship stabilizers screamed as alarms lit up across the control panels. "Colonel," Rao shouted. "Massive power surge beneath us. It's activating something huge." Through the bridge window they saw it. The ground miles away began to crack open. Red dust rose into the sky as gigantic metallic forms started to rise from the Martian plains. First one, then another. Enormous ships, larger than any human vessel, emerged from beneath the sands, each glowing with the same eerie blue light. Their hulls were scarred by time, but still radiated power. Mars was never dead, Hayes whispered. It was sleeping. Mara's voice was low, steady. "All units, return to the Ares, now!" The soldiers sprinted toward the warship as the alien ships continued to rise, their engines shaking the ground. The Ares's massive cannons turned automatically, locking onto the unknown targets. Inside the bridge, tension filled the air. "Colonel, they're not attacking," Rao said. "They're scanning us." On the radar, beams of blue light swept across the Ares, scanning its weapons, crew, and systems. Every second felt heavier than the last. Then the voice returned, louder, echoing inside every helmet, every speaker, every mind. "You carry weapons. You are a threat. Defensive posture." Mara commanded, "Do not fire unless fired upon." But the alien ships were already moving. Their hulls shifted, revealing massive energy cannons forming along their sides. The Martian sky filled with glowing blue orbs, charging with light. Rao's voice cracked. "They're powering up weapons!" Mara's jaw tightened. "Raise shields. Prepare for evasive maneuvers." Outside, lightning-like beams shot from the alien ships, slamming into the ground around the Ares. Explosions erupted, throwing red dust high into the air. The warship lifted off, engines roaring, dodging the blasts. "Return fire!" Mara shouted. The Ares fired back, bright plasma bolts tearing through the haze, striking one of the alien ships. The explosion was massive, but when the dust cleared, the alien vessel still floated there unharmed. "They have shields stronger than ours." Hayes yelled. "Keep firing," Mara ordered. For several minutes, the sky above Mars became a storm of light and thunder. Alien beams and human plasma bolts crossed the red horizon. Dust storms raged as ancient machines awakened all across the planet. Then suddenly all fire stopped. Every alien ship froze in place. The strange voice spoke once more, softer this time. "You have awakened the armada of Mars. Prepare for judgment." The transmission ended. The alien ships turned away, rising slowly toward the upper atmosphere. Mara watched them go, her face pale but fierce. "They're not retreating," she said quietly. "They're signaling someone." Rao looked at her in confusion. "Who?" She glanced at the flickering radar. Dozens of new signals were now appearing in orbit, far above Mars. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The rest of them." The silence after the battle was heavy. The warship Ares-class Titan floated above the red planet, its hull scarred from the blasts, its engines humming low like a wounded beast. The crew moved quickly, repairing damage and checking systems. But even as sparks flew and alarms blinked, no one could ignore what they had just witnessed. Mars was alive, and it was angry. Colonel Mara Jensen stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display. Dozens of massive energy signatures now surrounded the planet. Alien ships rising from beneath the surface like sleeping giants. Lieutenant Rao's hands shook as he adjusted the controls. "Colonel, I count 47 active warships, possibly more. They're spreading across the orbit. It's an entire fleet." Commander Hayes looked at him sharply. "A fleet that was buried for thousands of years." Waiting, Mara didn't speak. Her eyes stayed locked on the radar as one after another, alien ships lifted from the surface. Vast, dark silhouettes with glowing blue veins of energy crawling across their hulls. Some were small and sleek, like hunters. Others were massive, larger than cities, each shaped differently, as if built for a war humanity could never imagine. Outside the window, the Martian sky shimmered with motion. Dust storms twisted beneath the rising titans, and strange thunder rolled across the thin air. Mara finally spoke. "Open a channel. Try to contact them." Rao hesitated. "After what happened last time." "Do it," she said firmly. "We can't fight an entire planet." Static filled the speakers as the comms linked to the alien frequency. For a long moment there was nothing. Then a deep mechanical voice answered, calm and cold, "You have awakened the Guardians. Identify your purpose." "This is Colonel Mara Jensen of Earth Command," she said slowly. "We mean no harm. We came to investigate the signal." There was silence again. Then the voice replied, even colder than before, "The signal was not meant for you." Mara frowned. "Then for who?" "For those who remember the War of Ascension," the voice said. "You are not of them. You are new, unrecorded. You are intruders." The bridge lights dimmed as the alien signal interfered with the ship's power grid. Hayes cursed under his breath. "They're scanning us again." "Every system's being analyzed. Cut the link," Mara ordered. But before Rao could act, the alien voice spoke one last time. "The galaxy has slept too long. Now it shall remember Mars." The transmission ended. Moments later, the alien fleet began to move. Giant ships turned in perfect synchronization, aligning their weapons toward the horizon. Then one by one, beams of energy shot upward, not at the Ares but toward space itself. "Colonel," Rao said, his voice tight, "they're transmitting something." "Where?"
Mara asked. He swallowed hard.
"Everywhere. Across the system. Across the galaxy." Mara's stomach turned. The alien fleet wasn't just awakening, it was calling out. Hours passed, and the red planet's orbit grew darker. The alien ships formed a massive circle above Mars, energy gathering between them like a storm. The Ares floated on the edge of it, watching. Inside the warship, tension filled every corridor. Engineers worked without rest. Soldiers stood ready at the weapons bay, though all knew, if these aliens attacked again, humanity wouldn't stand a chance. Commander Hayes turned to Mara. "We should retreat. Send the data back to Earth while we still can." But Mara shook her head. "If we leave now, we'll never know what they are. We have to understand this, for Earth's future." Rao's voice interrupted. "Colonel, we're detecting more ships entering from orbit. Not from Mars, from deep space." The holographic map flared with new contacts. Dozens of unknown signals approaching fast. "Another fleet?" Hayes asked. Rao nodded. "Different configuration. Not the same as the Martian ones." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Then who are they?" Before anyone could answer, the Ares communication system came alive again, this time with a new voice, one that sounded less mechanical, but just as powerful. "This is the Xeltor Dominion. Mars is forbidden. Withdraw, humans, or share their fate." Rao's hands froze. "Colonel." "The Xeltor? They were wiped out centuries ago, according to alien archives," Hayes muttered. "Then those archives were wrong. Outside, the new fleet appeared from the void, sleek, black ships with silver lines that shimmered like liquid. They moved fast, circling the awakened Martian fleet. For a moment, the two alien armadas faced each other in silence, weapons charged, waiting. Then, all at once, they fired. Space lit up like a storm. Energy beams and plasma waves filled the darkness. The Martian sky burned as massive explosions erupted above. The Ares was caught in the shockwaves, its hull rattling violently. "Evasive maneuvers," Mara shouted. The warship dove downward, engines roaring. Explosions flashed above them like lightning. The alien fleets clashed fiercely. Each ship moved with deadly precision, their blasts cutting through the thin atmosphere. It was not a battle, it was a massacre. Rao looked at his screen, eyes wide. "Colonel, the Martian ships. They're losing power." "Impossible," Hayes said. "They're older but stronger." Before he could finish, one of the alien dreadnoughts exploded in a burst of blue fire, shaking the planet below. Debris rained down, crashing into the surface. "The Xeltor are targeting their energy cores," Rao said. "They know these ships' weaknesses." Mara's mind raced. If the Martian fleet falls, the entire planet could collapse, their power systems run through the crust. As if in answer, the ground below started to tremble. Cracks spread across the Martian surface, glowing blue. The energy that once flowed calmly through the underground structures now surged violently upward. Hayes grabbed the console. "Colonel, we have to leave, now!" Mara hesitated, staring at the battle raging above. "No, not yet. I need one transmission to Earth Command. Tell them this war isn't new, it's ancient. We've just stepped into its grave." The ship shook violently as another explosion ripped through the sky. The alien fleets continued to destroy each other, but both sides were still strong. Mara turned toward the main window. Above Mars, the galaxy's forgotten armies had awakened, and humanity was now caught between them. She whispered to herself, "We're not observers anymore. We're witnesses to the rebirth of war." Outside, the two alien fleets burned across the stars, their fire lighting up the red planet once more. The red planet was no longer quiet. The skies above Mars glowed with fire as two alien fleets clashed in a storm of destruction. The Ares-class Titan drifted below the chaos, engines burning bright, trying to stay alive in the middle of a war that was never meant for humans. Explosions tore across the horizon. Pieces of alien metal rained down through the thin Martian air, crashing into the dust plains below. Each impact shook the ground like thunder. Inside the warship, alarms screamed. Lights flashed red across the bridge, shields at 20%, shouted Lieutenant Rao, his voice sharp with fear. "We can't take much more of this." Commander Hayes gripped the console, his knuckles white. "Divert all power to thrusters. Keep us low in the atmosphere. Maybe their sensors can't lock on." Colonel Mara Jensen stood in the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the chaos above. Every blast reflected in her visor, turning her expression into steel. "Those ships aren't just fighting each other," she said quietly. "They're sending a message." Hayes looked up. "To who?" "To the whole galaxy," Mara said. In the silence of space far beyond Mars, satellites and deep space probes caught fragments of the battle. Energy readings spiked across every human monitoring station. On Earth, scientists stared at their screens in disbelief. The data was impossible. Power levels beyond any known weapon. Signatures of alien technology unseen for thousands of years. Within hours, the images reached every government, every military leader, every space observatory. Mars was under siege. Humanity's secret was out. Back on Mars, the Ares struggled to stay airborne. The ship's hull was dented and scorched. Whole sections of the outer armor glowed red from heat. "Colonel!" Rao shouted. "Incoming transmission, not from the fleets, from somewhere else." "Put it through," Mara ordered. The main screen flickered, showing a distorted image, a shadowed figure with eyes like burning stars. The voice that followed was calm but heavy, like ancient thunder. "Children of Earth," it said. "You were not invited to this war." Mara stepped closer. "Who are you?" "A witness," the voice replied. "I watched when Mars fell. I see it awaken again, and you stand in the fire." Hayes frowned. "You're one of them." "Not anymore," the figure said. "I was a guardian, long before your world took its first breath. Now I am only memory. Leave this place before the past consumes you." Mara's voice stayed firm. "We can't. The fleets are destroying the planet. If we leave now, they'll spread to the colonies, maybe to Earth." The figure paused. "Then you will share Mars' fate." The signal cut. The screen went black. Before anyone could react, a massive explosion lit up the sky. One of the Martian dreadnoughts had been hit directly in its core. The blast tore through the atmosphere, sending shockwaves that rippled across the desert. The Ares spun violently, alarms screaming. Sparks burst from the ceiling as the ship tilted sideways. "Stabilize, now!" Mara shouted. Hayes fought the controls, his hands flying over the console. Engines responding barely. The ship leveled out, hovering just above the surface. Dust swirled around it like smoke. Rao gasped as he stared at the radar. "Colonel, you need to see this." Dozens of new signals appeared on the screen, not from Mars, not from the nearby fleets. These were coming from deep space. Unknown origin, unknown design. "They're responding to the signal," Rao whispered. The one the Martian fleet sent earlier. It's spreading like a chain reaction. Mara's face hardened. Then the entire galaxy is hearing it. Far above, the battle between the Martian Armada and the Zeltor Dominion reached its peak. Giant ships collided, breaking apart in blinding explosions. One dreadnought fell through the sky, crashing into the surface with such force that it created a new crater miles wide. The shockwave rolled across the planet like a tidal wave of dust and fire. The Ares' hull groaned under the pressure. "Colonel!" Hayes shouted. "We can't stay here. Mars is tearing itself apart." Mara stared out the window. The surface was cracking open, deep fissures glowing with the same blue light as the alien ships. It looked like the planet's heart was bleeding energy. "We're not leaving yet," she said. "Not until we know what they're fighting for." "Ma'am, if we wait any longer..." But before Hayes could finish, a bright flare appeared above the fleets. Every alien ship suddenly stopped firing. The battlefield froze. Out of the blinding light emerged a new shape, vast and elegant, like a temple forged from starlight. It dwarfed even the largest dreadnoughts. Its hull was silver-white and its engines radiated golden fire. Rouse stared in awe. "That's not part of either fleet." Mara felt a chill run through her. "Then what is it?" A deep voice echoed across every frequency, clear and commanding. "This war is over. The Tribunal has returned." The alien fleets immediately powered down their weapons. The massive ship hovered above them, its presence dominating the entire sky. Hayes whispered, "The Tribunal. That's what the old Orion archives mentioned. The ancient rulers of the galaxy." Mara's pulse quickened. "If they're real, then this war is just the beginning." The Ares' sensors went haywire as energy readings spiked to impossible levels. "The Tribunal ship is scanning us," Rao said. "Colonel, they're aware of us." A moment later, a message appeared on the screen, not in human language, but translated automatically by the warship's AI. "Human vessel, your presence is acknowledged. You have entered a conflict older than your species. You will now be judged." Mara stared at the message, her heart pounding. "Judged," Hayes repeated. "What does that mean?" The lights on the bridge flickered. The floor vibrated. The entire warship trembled as a beam of golden light descended from the Tribunal ship above, enveloping the Ares completely. Outside, the alien fleets watched in silence as the human warship vanished into the light, disappearing from the Martian sky without a trace. The world around the Ares-class Titan dissolved into pure light. There was no sky, no stars, only a golden void stretching endlessly in all directions. The crew could feel the ship moving, but there was no sense of direction, no gravity, no time. Every system flickered. Screens flashed symbols no one could read. The AI's voice stuttered in static. "Colonel, I don't think we're in normal space anymore," Lieutenant Rao whispered. Colonel Mara Jensen stood motionless, eyes locked on the glowing clouds swirling outside the viewport. The silence felt heavy, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Commander Hayes checked the controls, frustration rising in his voice. "Engines are offline, thrusters unresponsive, communications dead. It's like we've been frozen in some kind of dimensional pocket." Then, without warning, a low hum filled the ship. The light outside began to shift, folding into shapes, tall, glowing structures that looked almost like towers. They floated in the air, slowly forming what seemed like a massive circular chamber in the middle of the void. Rao's eyes widened. "Are those buildings?" Mara shook her head. "Not buildings. Something else." The ship drifted to a stop at the center of the chamber. Then everything went quiet again, until a voice echoed through the bridge. It wasn't coming from the speakers. It was inside their minds. "Humanity has entered the Tribunal's domain." Everyone froze. The voice was neither male nor female. It sounded ancient, layered and calm. "Your kind has walked into the memory of the stars. You are here to face judgment." Hayes clenched his fists. "Judgment for what? We didn't start that war." The voice responded instantly. "The actions of one world echo through many. You awakened the fire on Mars. You touched the ruins of the old empire." Mara took a step forward. We were defending ourselves. The Martian fleet attacked us first. We only survived, and yet you built your ship upon their grave, the voice said softly. The technology you wield was never yours. The bridge fell silent. Rao looked down, guilt flickering across his face. The Ares was indeed created from alien relics, ancient weapons found buried beneath the Martian surface. Humanity had reverse-engineered them, never understanding their true origin. Mara's voice was steady. If we are guilty of curiosity, then we accept that. But we never sought war. The chamber around them began to shift again. Streams of light formed shapes, holograms of planets, battles, and civilizations, long gone. The crew watched entire galaxies burn and rebuild before their eyes. War has no beginning and no end, the voice said. Every empire once believed it was innocent. Every conqueror once claimed to protect peace. The holograms vanished, leaving only darkness. Then, from the void, 3 glowing figures appeared. Each was tall and faceless, their forms made of pure energy. 1 blue, 1 gold, 1 silver. The Tribunal. Mara stepped forward. If you are the Tribunal, then tell us what you want. The golden figure spoke first. We seek balance. For 10,000 cycles, we have watched as species rise and fall. Mars was once our home. Its fire was our creation. You woke it from its rest. The silver figure's voice was colder. You're not ready for the power you carry. Your world will destroy itself if you continue. Hayes stepped up beside Mara. Then help us understand. Don't punish us for surviving. The blue figure's tone softened. Perhaps survival is your greatest strength. And your greatest curse. For a moment the figures stood in silence, as if speaking to one another in a language beyond sound. Then the golden one raised its hand, and a small sphere of light appeared between them. Inside it the crew saw a vision, Earth floating in space, peaceful and unaware of the war raging beyond. Your species has potential, said the golden figure. But the galaxy fears what it does not understand. You must prove that your fire brings creation, not ruin. Mara's heart pounded. How do we prove that? The light pulsed brighter. You will be tested. Beyond this void lies the Crucible, a realm where only truth survives. If you endure it, you may return. If you fail, your world will be forgotten. The chamber began to shake. Energy rippled through the ship, systems flickering back to life. Rao shouted, Colonel, power's returning, but something's pulling us deeper. Mara turned to the crew. Hold on! Everyone brace for jump! The figures of the Tribunal raised their hands. The void opened beneath the ship, revealing a vortex of spinning light and shadow. The Ares was dragged downward, faster and faster, as if falling through the heart of a star. Hayes gritted his teeth. Where is this taking us? Mara's voice was calm, but her eyes glowed with determination. Where we'll find out what humanity truly is. Outside the viewport, galaxies twisted and shattered into fragments of light. The warship roared as it plunged into the unknown. Then, silence. The Ares emerged into a place no human had ever seen. A black ocean stretched infinitely below, reflecting strange constellations in the sky. Giant fragments of alien structures floated in the air like pieces of a broken world. Lightning crawled through the clouds, and distant shapes moved within the mist, ancient machines alive and watching. Rao whispered, Welcome to the Crucible. Mara looked out the window, her reflection hardened like steel. Then this is where our test begins. The ship powered forward, its engines glowing bright against the darkness. As the unknown world of the Crucible awaited them, full of traps, truths, and the final judgment of mankind. The Ares-class Titan hovered over the black ocean of the Crucible, its engines glowing like a small sun in a realm where light itself seemed afraid to exist. Every radar was useless, every compass spun in circles. The ship drifted between floating ruins, broken towers, shattered temples, and massive rings that hung in the air like bones of an ancient god. Inside the bridge, no one spoke for several minutes. The silence pressed down heavier than gravity itself. Finally, Lieutenant Rao broke it.
This place.
It feels alive, Commander Hayes nodded. Alive and angry. Colonel Mara Jensen stood at the viewport, her reflection pale against the strange light. "This is where the Tribunal tests us," she said quietly. "Whatever built this place died a long time ago, but their machines didn't." Suddenly the ship shuddered. A deep metallic sound echoed from below, like the roar of a sleeping beast. "Contact!" Rao shouted. "Something massive rising from the ocean." The crew turned toward the viewport. The black surface of the water began to ripple. Then with a violent surge, something huge emerged. A mechanical titan, easily the size of a city. Its body was made of silver armor, its eyes burning with white flame. Hayes gasped. "That's not a ship. It's a guardian." The creature's voice thundered across the void. "Intruders from the living world. State your purpose." The Ares' comm system flickered on by itself. Mara stepped forward. "We come from Earth. The Tribunal sent us here for judgment. We seek to prove our right to exist among the stars." The Guardian's head tilted slightly. "Earth, a name not spoken since the fall of Mars. You carry their weapons, you bear their sin." Mara's jaw tightened. "Then let us carry their truth as well." For a moment the Guardian was silent. Then its chest opened, revealing a core of burning light. From that light, hundreds of smaller drones burst out, spinning around the Ares like a storm of glowing blades. "Hostiles!" Hayes shouted. "They're locking on!" Mara raised her hand. "No weapons." "Not yet!" The drones circled faster, scanning the ship with beams of blue light. The crew waited, hearts pounding. Then everything stopped. The Guardian's voice echoed again. "You will be tested!" A beam of energy shot from its chest, striking the Ares. The crew screamed as the ship trembled violently. Lights exploded, alarms blared, and the bridge filled with blinding white. When the light faded, they were no longer aboard the ship. Mara opened her eyes and gasped. She was standing in a massive hall made of red stone and ancient steel. Around her were broken pillars, alien symbols glowing faintly on the walls. The air felt heavy, almost sacred. Rao and Hayes appeared beside her, confused but alive. Where are we?" Rao asked, looking around. Hayes tapped his chest plate. "We're still in our suits, but the ship's gone." A voice echoed across the hall, deep and ghostly. "Welcome to the trial." Figures began to appear, walking out of the shadows. Tall beings of light, each one carrying a weapon forged from pure energy. Their faces were blank, their steps silent. "To understand your place," the voice continued, "you must remember ours." Suddenly, the walls around them shifted. The hall dissolved into an image, a living memory. They saw Mars thousands of years ago, not dead, not red, but alive. Oceans shimmered under twin moons. Cities of crystal floated in the sky. The Martians, tall and proud, walked among wonders that defied physics. Rao whispered, They built all this." Hayes' eyes widened. "This was the Martian Empire," the voice grew louder. "We reached for eternity and fell into it. The vision changed, the beautiful cities now burning. The same warships they saw above Mars were once again fighting, but this time it was Martians against Martians." Mara clenched her fists. "They destroyed themselves. Power without purpose," said the voice. "We thought ourselves gods. Until our sun turned against us, they saw it happen. The Martian sun flared like a dying heart, sending waves of radiation that burned the planet clean. The Empire fell in one night. When the light faded, they were back in the hall. The Guardians of Light stood around them, silent as statues. "Now you see what awaits all who believe they are above the stars," the voice said. Mara looked up. "Then why test us? If we're doomed to repeat your mistakes, why give us a chance?" For the first time, one of the Guardians spoke directly. "Because you are different. You remember pain. You fight for meaning." Hayes stepped forward. "So what do we have to do to pass your test?" The Guardian raised its weapon. "Show us your truth, not your strength." The hall began to shake. Flames erupted from the walls. The floor split open, revealing a massive chasm filled with fire. Mara shouted, "Move!" The three humans ran, dodging collapsing pillars and falling debris. As they reached the edge of the hall, they saw a giant door made of glowing metal. Rao pointed. "That's the exit." But before they could reach it, one of the guardians blocked their path. It raised its sword of light. "Only one truth passes through." Mara didn't hesitate. She stepped forward. "Then I'll show you mine." She took a deep breath and spoke, her voice echoing through the burning hall. "Humanity isn't perfect. We fight, we fail, we make mistakes. But every time we fall, we rise again. We learn. We remember." The guardian's sword lowered. The flames began to fade. "Then rise, child of Earth." The door opened, releasing a brilliant white light. The crew stepped through, and in a flash they were back aboard the Ares, floating above the black ocean once more. Hayes gasped for air. Rao clutched his console. Mara looked out the viewport. The Guardian Titan was gone. The ocean was calm. A soft voice echoed in their minds. "The first trial is complete. 2 remain." Mara whispered. "Then the true test is still ahead." Outside, the void began to shimmer again, forming a distant portal of golden light. The next path awaited. The Ares-class Titan moved slowly toward the glowing golden portal that shimmered ahead. Behind them, the black ocean of the Crucible was silent again, as if even the void was watching their next step. Every heart on the ship was heavy. They had survived the first trial, but the voice of the Tribunal still echoed in their minds. 2 trials remain. Commander Hayes looked at the fading light on the ocean and said quietly, "If the first one nearly killed us, what could be worse than that?" Colonel Mara Jensen didn't answer. She stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the portal. "Whatever comes next, we face it as one." Lieutenant Rao's fingers trembled on the control board.
"Colonel!"
"Energy readings are off the charts. That portal, it's not just a gateway. It's alive. Take us in," Mara ordered. The Ares glided into the golden light. The moment they crossed, the stars vanished. The ship shook violently, and a wave of pressure hit everyone like a tidal force. The sound of metal twisting echoed through the hull. Then suddenly it stopped. They had entered a realm of pure brilliance. A vast field of stars stretched below them like a sea of diamonds. Above, a single massive sphere of light floated, larger than any planet, pulsing with energy and consciousness. Rao whispered, "What? What is that?" A voice filled the bridge. It wasn't loud, but it resonated through every cell of their bodies. "This is the heart of judgment. You stand before the memory of creation." Hayes' voice shook. "Tribunal, we came as you commanded. We faced your guardian. We saw your fall. What do you want from us now?" "Truth," the voice said. "The final trial is not of strength nor of will, but of soul." Before they could react, the light expanded, swallowing the ship whole. Mara opened her eyes and found herself floating in space, alone. No ship, no crew. Only silence and endless starlight. A whisper came from behind her. "Do you believe humanity deserves the stars?" She turned and froze. It was her, standing face to face, a perfect reflection, wearing the same uniform, the same scars, but with eyes that burned like suns. Mara spoke slowly. "You're not real." "I am your truth," the reflection said. "And you are a lie, wrapped in hope." The stars around them began to shift, forming images, earth burning, cities crumbling, soldiers fighting under broken skies. Humanity's wars, greed, and pride flashed before her eyes. Her reflection stepped closer. "You talk of unity, but you built weapons from the bones of another world. You call yourselves explorers, yet you conquer everything you touch." Mara's chest tightened. "We make mistakes, but we change. We learn. Do you?" the reflection asked. "Or do you just rebuild your empires with new names?" The stars flickered red. Mars appeared before them, destroyed, silent, its surface cracked like glass. Mara's reflection whispered, "This is your future, if you fail." She closed her eyes. "Then we won't fail." When she opened them again, the reflection was gone. The stars turned gold. Mara blinked and found herself back on the Ares bridge. Hayes and Rao were there, both shaken, pale, and sweating. "Colonel," Hayes said, his voice trembling, "I saw Earth, destroyed. I saw myself giving the order that ended it. It felt real, Ra whispered. It showed me my family, begging me to stay on Earth, but I left them to die when I joined the fleet. Mara took a deep breath. It's testing our hearts, our regrets, our choices. The voice of the Tribunal filled the air again. You have seen your truth. Now we see ours. Before them, the massive sphere of light began to change, transforming into the figures of the 3 Tribunal lords they had met before. The golden, the silver, and the blue. The golden spoke first. You have endured the trials. You saw the fall of Mars. You faced your reflection. The silver's tone was cold. But endurance does not prove worth. You have touched forbidden power. You could become what destroyed us. The blue was silent for a moment, then said softly, Yet, you also carry something the ancients never did, the will to remember. The 3 figures turned their gaze toward the Ares. Humanity, they said together. Your path is uncertain. You stand between creation and chaos. Tell us, why should you live among the stars? Mara stepped forward. Her voice was firm, but her eyes carried the weight of everything she'd seen. Because we remember pain, she said. We remember loss. We know what it's like to fail and to rise again. Every scar we carry is a promise that we'll do better. We don't want to rule the stars. We want to earn our place in them. The bridge fell silent. Then, for the first time, the Tribunal bowed their heads. The golden figure spoke. Then rise, children of Earth. You have passed the final trial. Light enveloped the ship once more. The crew felt warmth, calm, and something deeper, as if the stars themselves had accepted them. The galaxy will remember this day, the blue said, when the lost children of a small blue world proved worthy of the sky. The light faded. When the Ares-class Titan reappeared, it was back above Mars. The battle was over. The alien fleets were gone. Only silence filled the sky. Hayes stared out the window in disbelief. We're back? Rao smiled weakly. Mars is quiet again. Mara looked down at the planet below, scorched, wounded, but still turning beneath the sun. She whispered, Then maybe, so are we. The Ares turned toward the stars, engines igniting with golden flame, the same light that had judged them, now guiding them home. As the ship rose into the vast black sea of space, Mara spoke the words that would echo through generations. We went to be judged. And we came back human. The stars shimmered like witnesses, and somewhere in the depths of the universe, the Tribunal watched, silent, eternal, and for the first time in ages, at peace.